Well, hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Sy Huffer and Friends. This is a podcast designed to help you flourish in life and relationships. And the best way to help you do that is for me to introduce you to my friends. I believe that I have the best friends in the whole world. So what I like to do is I like to introduce a relevant topic for the month and then just invite my different friends from around the country on this podcast to talk about that topic. And hopefully, as we unpack those topics each month, it helps you and your friends in your journey to the flourishing Made for More life. And so this month, we're focusing in on decisions and how to make healthy decisions. I believe that your life is a product of your relationships, the habits that you engage in, and the decisions that you make. And so how do you do that? How do you go about making healthy, wise decisions? We talked a little bit about that in the last episode, and we're going to spend the next several weeks talking about that as well. And so if you enjoy this content and it's been helpful for you, please like, follow, or subscribe. We are on Apple, Spotify podcast, and on our own YouTube channel. So please do that. Share it with your friends. And today, I'm excited to get to introduce you to my friend, Mike Marzigliano. I really respect Mike, and I invite him to be part of this podcast today because he has shown, ever since I've known him, become friends with him, he has shown wisdom in decision-making when it comes to his physical health. So that's why I asked him to join us here today. So Mike, welcome. Great having you here, man. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and like what you do for a living and your family.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate the intro. I'm from New Jersey. I was born and raised there. Spent most of my life there. And, after all the COVID nonsense, it was the final straw, and I had to, escape the politics and the craziness. And thankfully, we found Naples, Florida down here.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'm a software developer. I've been always interested in technology and software since I've been little, and went to school for that, and been employed my whole career writing software.
That's awesome. And so tell me a little about your family. You're married. How long have you been married?
Yep. Beth and I, we just hit our 10-year anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
We met, just after college locally, and then dated for a while, got married in 2014, and, have 3 boys now, 7, 5, and 3.
So your house is pretty quiet all the time, is what I hear, right?
Yeah, this is actually rare that it is pretty quiet right now, but not usually.
Yeah, they're awesome. The Marzigliano family is just awesome family. We love getting to know them here in Naples. They've been really good friends for the last year and a half or so. And so one thing I love about your story is that you have been on a fitness journey for several years now. And that was not something that you've always been into. That's not been your just whole life growing up, the way I understand it. What was a little bit of tell a little about what was a turning point for you that led you to choose to get, I'm going to get physically healthy?
Yeah, it definitely was not just like a decision one day, hey, I'm just going to become a gym bro and try to get fit, And I think after my first son was born, I just saw a picture of myself that my wife had taken. And, it was in the summer, just bathing suit on. And it just, to me, it was just not flattering. It was not how I saw myself in my head. But I realized this is kind of what I had turned into at this point. I was really overweight in my eyes. I didn't like how I looked. And then I also, with a new son, didn't want him remembering me like this when I didn't even really like to think of myself like that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where to begin. I didn't understand, know what. Yeah, do you start running? Do you start lifting weights?
Mm-hmm.
Like what? And a friend of mine around that same time, had just bought like a bunch of used weights on like Facebook Marketplace and was like, dude, let's just start this together. And, for 2 or 3 days a week, we would just not really know what we were doing, just lifting weights in his garage. And it was just fun. And I think that was kind of my turning point where I kind of started to make that my hobby,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy it. And there were ups and downs and times I had taken months off and didn't see progress and things like that. But over time, you kind of refine what you enjoy doing and what works and what makes you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the anytime you move from like where you're at to where you want to be, some ideal from the reality to the ideal, there is a moment where you have to face brutal reality, right? And it's like, okay, I'm not where I want to be. I can't stay here. And finally, when you get that can't stay here, that's when you can start moving to there, whatever there is. And so what are some of the things that you are proud of with this journey that you've been on? Like, what can you celebrate at? Like, how long has this been? Has this been 4 years, 5 years? How long has this journey been?
I mean, I guess it started right after my first son was born, and he just turned 7.
Okay.
So but when I say that, I'm like, Jesus, 7 years.
Yeah.
But it seems it hasn't been, I guess, as intense as it's been recently. So it doesn't feel like I'm doing it the same thing for 7 years. But yeah, I would just say I'm proud of how I have become more disciplined over time and made the fitness routine like absolutely part of my life. Whereas like early on, it was just like I'll go to the gym here and there, or if I took a week off, it didn't matter. Or it's just I'm proud of just how I've incorporated it into my life and just made it. It's just an absolute part of my weekly routine that I couldn't skip. I need it and I enjoy it, and that's what I guess I'm proud of the most, just enjoying as much as I do.
Yeah, 7 years in, I could see like for sure this is a lifestyle for you now. Like this is what Mike's life consists of, is what you eat, when you work out, like what you do day in and day out. It's just ingrained into what you do regularly, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's what they say, right? It's like, it's not like this new diet I'm doing for this season. It's like, no, you need a lifestyle change. And then you've truly done that. What were some of the major...
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good, guys.
What were some of the major challenges? I mean, you said like, 7 years and you weren't always as strict, or it wasn't always your lifestyle those 7 years. So what were some of the things that you had to kind of overcome in this journey over the last 7 years?
Yeah, I think just it's a learning, like understanding that it's a learning process.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be an expert in anything you start in. And then you look back and you're like, did I just waste the last 9 months? And you realize something wasn't working right, but you still did it for too long. Or so my bad. Repeat the question one more time.
No, you're good. You're good. Just like what did you have to overcome? Like what were some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah, all right. So I guess just yeah, that's where I was going. Like the learning aspect, like overcoming. Like I would try some fad diet or some fad, workout program or something, and then not kind of sticking with that, or I realized after months of it that I didn't enjoy it, even though I thought I wanted it to work. So I guess it was just the mistakes and the learning process. I enjoyed that, overcoming those, and then every year you look back and you're like, everything's been refined a little bit more, like diet and exercise wise. And I just feel like every year I feel like it's the best I've done. So that's a good feeling, like every year moving forward,
Yeah, absolutely. Getting a little better, 1% better every day, 1% better every year. I love that. And I love that, like, one of the things I say about wisdom is that wisdom is not just having experience. Like, you can have experiences and not be wise. You can still be foolish. Wisdom is evaluated experience. It's having experience that you evaluate and you say, what can I learn from this so I don't repeat the same mistakes I repeated? Because I think people think, okay, I'm going to start a fitness journey, I have to do it perfect right now. And it's like, no, you got to, pursue progress, but you're going to choose the wrong eating strategies, or you're going to be doing a fitness regimen that's not the best. But if you evaluate and learn from your experiences, you can start actually, like you said, refine it and get a little bit better every single year. I love that. I think that's a really important truth that you just brought up. What are you working at today? So like, what's like right now, what are you trying to refine?
I think I have finally, my diet kind of clicked. I was trying the fads like keto and, or, cut out all carbs. And then I went try carnivore. And I think I'm just at a point now, where I feel like I have everything diet-wise dialed in nicely. I mean, my only goals I foresee is just, maybe I spent a lot of time trying to get lean and losing weight, maybe kind of go the opposite route, spend some time trying to put on some weight in a healthy way, where I'm just adding body fat on, but actually just getting stronger and getting bigger and stuff like that. So I would say that's probably what I'm trying to refine moving forward at this point.
I remember one time you told me that like you had that kind of, I saw a picture of myself and I wanted to change. It was not flattering. I wanted it to be different. You had told me, I think at one point, that like you had gone like strict carnivore something for a season, and you saw a picture of yourself then too, and you thought, oh, I was too skinny. I looked almost like I don't know, weak, or I can't remember what word you used, but you're like, it was almost like the opposite. Now I wanted to I need to build some muscle because I'm just kind of looking like I've lost everything. Is that right? Do you remember you talking about that at one point?
I mean that's like a classic like Instagram meme about going to the gym is like, if it becomes your life, you're just going to constantly have body dysmorphia, no matter which way you're looking at it. But I think I got to a point where I was so focused on getting lean, you don't realize. And then I looked back and saw a picture, and I was like, I just felt like I looked like a scrawny high school kid. You know what I mean? That wasn't flattering either. So I had to change perspectives and change what I was doing and change what I was eating. But that's a good moment. That was a good turning point. At that point, I had realized I think I was done with the concept of like trying to lose weight and get lean at that point. And now I got to focus on, the more fun half, eating more, and
eating better. Yeah.
And that could be a lifelong journey.
Absolutely.
It's a slow process.
I love that. I love your take on it all. So one of the decisions you've made, one of the primary reasons I wanted to have you on here, just kind of give all that background for everyone on the episode, just like your fitness journey, led you to making kind of a decision that not a ton of people make, or some people make. I think more people are making it, I feel like, now than I've heard before, is that you've kind of said, I'm done drinking alcohol, at least in this season of my life. Can you unpack that? Like, where did that come from? And what do you think about like drinking alcohol today?
Yeah, that was also another wild journey for me. I mean, my whole high school and college life was, socially drinking. You know what I mean? Like, it was just that how do you escape that culture? In this country, it is just absolutely what seemingly every person gets into. So I was just years of just regular drinking every weekend, hanging out with friends. It was just the norm. What are we going to this weekend? And in the moment, that just felt normal. And I think it kind of, when I did have my first son, I was still stuck in that lifestyle, like where I on a Friday night, I'd be like itching to text friends, like, where are we meeting? And, and it would cause issues. Like my wife, like, what, you're going out to a bar again? Like, we got a newborn son at home. And I mean, that was definitely a turning point where I just said, like, all right, this isn't going to be the lifestyle of every weekend going to bars, and just hanging out at home more with my family and appreciating that. I just felt the urge to drink diminish. I didn't want to sit around in my home and just drink for 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like, that didn't seem as I don't know. Something just didn't seem right in my head. Whereas you wouldn't think twice if you were sitting at a bar with your friends for 3 hours, drinking 6-7 beers, a couple shots, like that would just seem perfectly normal. But sitting at home doing the same thing felt odd to me. So I just casually stopped drinking as much as I was, especially when I was just hanging out at home. I had no problem going to a party, or if I did meet friends here and there, or a wedding or something like that, I still had no problem drinking. And it slowly, more and more, I started to, the same way I felt about drinking at home, I started to feel like when I was going out. And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I had already accepted that I didn't really like it alone. Why am I all of a sudden thinking I'm liking it out? And then the whole aspects of like hangovers and waking up the next morning, like what am I doing to myself?
Yeah.
How is this benefiting me?
Hmm.
So I slowly cut it out over years, where I would still, again, drink at like a wedding or maybe a big birthday party, like stuff like that. And I think just one time after a friend's birthday last year, and it wasn't even like I had a bad time. I had a great time, but the next day I was just like, I think that was it. I think that was just the last time. So it's been like, 13 or 14 months now. And I have no regrets.
How has it impacted kind of like your goals in life? I mean, like it's like one of the things that you'll hear me say in what we've been talking about, this concept of wisdom, is that a question that we ask a lot is, what is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do? And Andy Stanley had a whole sermon series on this, and we're going to do the same thing at the gathering. But that's the wrong question to ask. If you're always like, what's the black and white? What's the line? What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? Like, we're not saying that it's wrong to drink alcohol. Like, that's not what this is about at all. The question he is saying to ask is this: what is the wise thing to do? In light of what you've learned about in your past, where you're at today, and where do you want to be in the future, what is the wise thing to do? And in this context of alcohol, how did wisdom and that kind of concept, how did that play a role in making this decision? Like, where you want to be in the future, what was the wise thing to do to say no to alcohol? Like, how did that play a part in, your life goals contributing to this decision?
Yeah, I think my diet changes over the years influenced that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Where even though I wasn't drinking a lot, it was still like, say here or there, you add it up, especially when I'm trying to actually like eat a clean diet, and then all of a sudden it's just like I'm just going to dump like 1,000 calories of liquor onto my day. Like that's just I was weighing that, and like I'd rather just eat another ribeye.
Yeah.
Why would I? So I think I agree. It's like I don't think there's anything morally wrong with enjoying alcohol or anything like that. But yeah, it just wasn't a wise choice for me any longer. I knew it had negative health consequences. I knew it didn't make me feel good the next day, or even sometimes the day of. I mean, I'm just getting older in general. I had a couple drinks during the day, I felt like crap by a few hours later at nighttime. Let alone the next morning. And I just just kept thinking, why am I doing this? And so like wisdom, like we were talking about, for me personally, it became a no-brainer. It just felt like the right thing to do, and the thing that was the wisest decision for me.
I've heard some people say that, like, if in order to say no to those things that, I think most people would say drinking a bunch of beers is not nutritious for your body, right? I think most nutritionists would agree with that statement. And so when you talk about making wise decisions, part of it is saying no to the thing that you want now in order to say yes to the thing that you want later. It's like you want to choose what's ultimate over what is temporary, right? And so like that discipline of like slowly like disciplining your body, your urges, your desires, and practicing delayed gratification over time, it makes sense that would lead to then making a decision like this about alcohol, because you've been practicing delayed gratification about corn syrup or refined sugar, you know what I'm saying, or carbs. And so now it's just kind of like that next piece in the journey of like, okay, if I'm saying delayed gratification, saying no to all these other things, then this makes sense too. And even the peer pressure that can come with like not drinking at a party, you've been able to withstand that with peer pressure with not eating chips and buffalo chicken dip, at a party. And so I just want to affirm you in that it's pretty cool. Like, how did like people around you, like how have they responded? Your friends, your family, to this kind of decision?
Well, yeah, it definitely, that aspect was the strangest for me. It makes you realize how wild it is that the culture, you are just expected to drink. human is just absolutely like expected to consume alcohol at any type of social gathering. And it's almost wild when you like come to that realization, like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, and even though it's not like I came from a place where I was like a raging alcoholic and I needed to go through a 12-step program and I had these problems with it, just telling people you don't drink anymore, I mean, you will still get from friends and family, oh, come on, have another one with me. You know, how like the pressure was, it was truly eye opening, and it was wild to just see, like, wow, it's so much more pervasive in our society and our culture than I ever really thought about. And I think the first time, especially, you know, in your mid 30s or early 40s, even meeting new people and explaining that. I mean, the looks, you get wide-eyed looks like you don't drink alcohol. Like, I swear I could have said I don't drink water and people would have had a more relaxed approach to that. But you say you don't drink alcohol and people are just shocked, you know, like it's, but I agree with you what you said earlier. I do think it's becoming a little more normalized. I do see it more in person and just, you know, on Instagram or online or stuff like that. But yeah, even with family and stuff, you know, like I said, at weddings you always have to explain yourself. Why don't you drink? Why, you know? So I just thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to take something like that you didn't realize how pervasive it was, choose to say no to it, and then now it's all this pressure and having to always explain yourself and justify yourself. It must be kind of tiring, you know. It must be maybe even, I don't know, do you ever get frustrated when you feel like you have to kind of defend your position again?
No, you know, I also don't want to come across like I'm judging others when they want to drink. I don't take offense. You know, people can think what they want, you know. You know, so I just laugh about it more than anything.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to approach it. If someone wanted to, you have a pretty active Instagram account, and I love following you on Instagram because I love seeing the food that you're eating because it looks incredible, and I'm always like, that's what I'm doing next. So if someone wants to follow Mike Marzigliano and see kind of his health journey, his fitness journey, where would they find you?
Sure, mainly just post on Instagram at moderncaveman85.
Okay.
And yeah, it's mostly food that I make. Sometimes I'll post some gym stories or you know, if I make a new PR, I'll post a gym video here or there. But mainly it's you know, my favorite foods: burgers, steaks, and a lot of fruit these days.
It's fun to follow. It's a cool account. So you guys, I highly encourage you to do that. Before we leave, what's one last word of advice you'd want to give anyone who is considering a big change like this when it comes to drinking alcohol or pursuing physical health, getting fit? Human flourishing, the Harvard study that was done years ago, one of the aspects of human flourishing is physical health. And so I like talking to people about that piece because it's part of your body, is your only body you have for your life. And so what word of advice would you want to leave people?
I would say, I think when people think about, like, you know, they want to make a decision to get healthy, I feel like everyone defaults to, I got to start running. And I don't, there's nothing wrong with that. If you enjoy running, absolutely. My wife's a big runner. But I feel like a lot of people don't like running. And I'm one of those people. And I think then they just tell themselves, I got to run 2 miles, I got to run 3 miles. And they just hate it. There's nothing enjoyable. And then they won't stick with it. If you hate what you're doing, you'll never stick with it long term. I would say don't force yourself to run if you don't want to. I enjoy walks and I enjoy lifting weights. And I think if you can refine a couple programs like that, you'll be much happier and you'll be more willing to stick with it long term. So do what you enjoy and make it a part of your weekly routine. Don't just say, I'll try to do it twice next week. Be like, no, I'm going to wake up early on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, an hour earlier than usual, and just do pull-ups and push-ups and walk for 20 minutes, you know, like just make it an absolute part of your schedule that you stick to. Don't just try to do it on a whim.
That's good. That's a good word. Mike, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I love get to introduce my friends to other friends that maybe don't know each other or will never meet, but at least can hear us talk on this podcast. If you enjoy the content, you can like, follow, or subscribe on Apple's podcast, Spotify podcast, or our YouTube channel. Hey, share this with a friend that you have that you might find this helpful. Our next episode, I'll be bringing back Lindsay and Andy to do a Q&A episode on the idea of wisdom and decision making. And so make sure to check that out when that drops. And remember, you are made for more than the life you're striving or settling for. So don't settle for anything less. We'll see you next time. See you, friends. Have a good one.